What, you scared of a little pressure? It ain't nothing but a little minor setback for a major comeback. Let's stand on business. Feeling like you can't manage, no excuses. Valley can stand it, no excuse. Keep losing your balance, no excuse. You better embrace the challenge, no excuse. You been giving your all, no excuse.
If we continue to ignore distress when we're in such a heightened state of stress, it turns to impairment. And that's what Lee was speaking on. His body forced him to have to look at what his lifestyle was that was creating so much pressure on his body.
Welcome back to another episode of the No Excuses, Embrace the Challenge Motivational Podcast. I'm Lee Toldson, a.k.a. Coach T. And on side of me is my lovely wife, Stephanie Toldson, owner of Align Counseling Service. This platform is for anyone who is looking for motivation. This is where a counselor and a coach come together and give you real life topics. Before we get into today's episode, I want to give a huge shout out to John Garcia for helping us with our space. If you're looking to take your business to the next level, DM him on Instagram at JohnGarcia_15. Huge shout out to my guys that's over the King Tail Project. I love what these guys are doing in the community to help our young athletes. If you want to know more about the King Tail Project, DM Ike Johnson on Instagram or Fit Right Athletics. Lastly, huge shout out to one of my day ones, childhood friend T Tyrant, for making us a fire intro for our podcast. If you want an intro for your platform, DM him on Instagram at _royal_tyrant, TYRANT. Now, let's get into today's episode. Today, we're going to be talking about a topic that affects about 90% of the people every year, and that's burnout. Stephanie, that's something we both have experienced. And what I want our listeners to understand is that burnout isn't weakness, it's not laziness, and it's not a lack of passion. Burnout usually happens to the people who cares the most. Burnout shows up when we've been giving and pouring into everyone else, but we slowly stop pouring into ourselves. When your passion starts to feel empty, when you've been showing up every day and you don't recognize yourself, hear me clearly when I say this, that doesn't mean that you're broken. It just means that you're tired. It means that you're starting to burn out. And one thing about burnout is that your body keeps score. And I lived it because in 2017, I had a massive heart attack. And I am truly blessed to be here to be able to tell my story. I didn't only just live it. I studied it. I reflected on it. And I wrote a self-help book called The ABC Method to Burnout because teachers, coaches, students, players, family members, friends, leaders around me were struggling the same way I was, but doing it in silence. And ABC stands for Align, Balance, and Connect. Burnout happens when one of those are missing. You need all three working together in order to prevent burnout. And in my book, I talk about MSC. And what MSC stands for is must, shoulds, and coulds. When I reflect back on what happened to me in 2017, it was a time in my life where I was saying yes to everything. I was trying to give my must, my shoulds, and my coulds 100% of my time, and you can't do that without burning out. Your musts are those non-negotiables, things that you have to do every day. Your shoulds are important but flexible, and your coulds are things that you want to do but you don't have to do it. But if you have a balance, your coulds are great to have. When you live by your musts, you manage your shoulds, and you limit your coulds, you protect your why. When I started doing that, I noticed a huge positive shift in my life. So if you're someone who's listening to this who is struggling with burnout, what I want you to do is to really focus on your must. When you start doing that, you're going to notice a shift in your life. We can't overload ourselves with everything. We can't be everywhere at one time. So really focus on balance. And Steph, how do you view it as a counselor? What is your perspective on burnout?
So, like Lee said, we all experience burnout at one point or another. It shows up in different form. So there's two different types of stress to be aware of. I'm going to start with the eustress and then distress. Okay, so eustress is still stress on the body, but it's when we are working towards something positive and we're very goal oriented and we're excited. Could be like a change, a new house, starting a business. That's still putting stress on your mind and your body, and change can be really hard. So the stress, though, is kind of our daily life, the things that we walk through our life with sensory input. So it could be, the drive to work can be stressful. Your workload can be stressful. Just the daily grind is pretty stressful for people. What we really want to work on, first of all, is getting to know what are the stress cues that you experience. And once we can identify what the cues are in the body, then you can start to take better care of the stress you're experiencing. Because if we don't take care of stress as it manifests, it turns to distress. And distress is where we start to react strong. We start to possibly overreact in situations that we normally can handle. Those are the cues that you are out of line with your healthy window of tolerance where you can handle life on a day-to-day basis. If we continue to ignore distress when we're in such a heightened state of stress, it turns to impairment. And that's what Lee was speaking on. His body forced him to have to look at what his lifestyle was that was creating so much pressure on his body, giving 100% in all areas when we're actually not supposed to. We're human. We're like not meant to give 100% in all areas of life. So his body forced him to slow down. And oftentimes we'll see that, whether it's through something extreme like a massive heart attack, or it could be self-destructive behavior, like some people turn to drugs and alcohol. Some people give up completely. Their body forces them to kind of stay in bed and they can't get out of bed. I know a lot of clients that have gone through that where they're like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm normally a motivated, go-getting person, but I literally can't function right now. And in my own personal life, I was in a state of eustress for a couple of years, starting a new business, having a new baby in the same season, blending a family. And last summer, I started to notice I was also becoming really short, and I felt like I was completely out of my window of tolerance. So I started to experience burnout. I was barely getting out of bed on time for work. And it took me reflecting when I couldn't handle a lot of interactions with people that I normally can handle. So even in my own life as a counselor, I have to reflect on what's going on, because sometimes our drive takes us away from really paying attention to the cues that's going on. So what we want to focus on is this concept called stress cycle completion. And it's where every day having some kind of activity that lets your mind and your body know that the day is over and the stress that you've experienced from that day is also over. So for example, you want to maybe think about something mindful, like going on a walk, but not having distractions. So putting your phone away and just being on a walk. Or it could be like having a healthy conversation with your partner. That in and of itself is connection, and it helps the oxytocin in the brain fire. You feel connected, you feel safe, you feel warm. That also helps the body and the mind know the day is over, the stress is gone. I like to take a bath every night with magnesium salt because that helps me relax from the day. My suggestion there too, if that's your go-to, try to put your phone away. Try to reduce any sensory input that's going to add to the day and create more stress. So a lot of people will go home and just numb out on TV or their phone. They're not actually dealing with the stress of the day. So we want to reduce distraction and find things that are going to help your mind and your body come back to a healthy window of tolerance so that you can deal with the day-to-day stress and not let your stress turn to distress or impairment. That's my suggestion.
If you like this episode today, follow, subscribe, comment. But until then, no excuses. Embrace the challenge.
Embrace the challenge. Embrace the challenge. You better embrace the challenge. Embrace the challenge. No excuses.